So, Julie,
Mm-hmm.
you've written a picture book, Kimchi is for Everyone. Can you explain to me a bit about how you had to consider audience and purpose in a picture book? Because you've written tons of research papers and articles. So how is this different for you?
Oh, well, first of all, it's a picture book. So completely different from what I'm used to. And I really had a crisis in thinking about how to write the book and so that's the interesting thing. Like, in my own mind, I wanted this book to be as a material for who? Like teachers, that they could use in their own classrooms, my grad students to see how language works in picture books, for young children who could read these and maybe connect with the content. It opens up things like intercultural awareness and a whole bunch of things. I had a lot of things in my mind. And when I actually sat down to write it, because this is a collaboration between myself and my illustrator, Hannah, what I just noticed was I kept falling back into the academic writing genre, because that's what I'm used to. That's what I know. So, I would write and I would send this text to my illustrator, and Hannah would say, wait, who is this for?
What?
It's not up to her to say yes or no, we can go with this. But obviously, as somebody who has written many picture books herself, she was very puzzled by, what kind of book this was about, who it was for. So I really had a big struggle in thinking about that. And it really made me see one more time, even though I have written about it and talked about it many, many times myself, just how important audience and purpose is. And once I had decided that it would be for, say, around like children 8 to 12, because that's really where my research sits with primary children.
I'm just a baby.
I realized that I could use the language. The language started to flow a lot more. I'll just mention one page of the book, okay? Like, this is the page where I remember feeling almost like liberated from my academic writing self. Okay, so there's one of the page 3 is in the front of the book. There's a page that says, now, there are 3 types of people in the world. Type A, those that are obsessed with kimchi. Type B, those that want to run a mile away when they even smell kimchi. And type C, those that sadly haven't had the good fortune of being forced to eat kimchi. Okay, so there's a bit of humor there, right? That's not something I'm going to do in an academic. I don't really have that kind of a voice to write in an academic way, even if, I were to like polish it up in an academic way. And then just below that, there's a little text box with a little Julie in there that says, which one are you? Okay, and the answer there is, no matter which one you are, I'm going to provide you with all you can eat free knowledge so you too can unlock the secret superpower of Korean health, beauty, and fiery passion. You're welcome. Okay. So I say that this little passage for me has been very liberating, because maybe it's a matter of like all the things that I held inside my own body of feeling like, being positioned, because I'm a heritage language speaker of Korean, that you always positioned as somebody who isn't a real speaker of that language, or that I'm not native enough, or, that I don't know all the words and the sentences, structures, and, all that stuff. So in writing something like this, it made me think that I have a voice, and I can say what I want to say, and I can just add a bit of humor in it just to kind of soften things. I'm not saying that, yes, all this is true, or I'm just saying, this is a picture book. That's the genre. You're allowed to be funny and maybe cute or whatever. And it just felt like, oh, I can do that. That's something I can do. And how great is it to be able to do your serious academic writing and all those things that you need to do in that realm, and also produce something fun and interesting and shift in and out of these genres. So audience and purpose just became something hugely important to me that then allowed me to be playful, fun. I have this other side of me that I didn't even know I had.
Wow. I want to go back to that point about the question, who is this for? Because I feel like as a person who has gone through grad school and then come out the other side, has started, publishing. We've started publishing together. The question of who is this for was not something that I consciously thought about when I was studying. It was always, why am I writing this assignment? Oh, it's for my tutor. It's for the lecturer. They're the only ones that are going to see my work. And I think it was really through meeting you that you actually saw there is a part here that can be counter-worthy as scholarship if you really applied yourself in understanding audience and purpose. And so I guess for grad students who are, listening or sitting here watching this, who do we write for when we're in those moments of trying to tackle these assignments, I guess?
Well, who do you write for? I mean, you're writing for your lecturers, aren't you? Because they're marking your papers. So let me ask you, when you're writing, you obviously know that your lecturers are going to be marking the papers. What do you do to meet the audience's approval?
You need to know your audience, and you need to.
But your audience is your lecturer, right? Yeah. So what are you doing to make sure that audience is happy and satisfied with your work?
I remember doing this when we were in TESOL. And there was a certain analytical essay that we had to write, and I knew that you were marking it. And so based on the reading list, I knew the way in which you stitched together certain readings and drew on those readings that were directly related to my concept in order to show that, A, I'd read the coursework readings, B, there were recommended readings, go into that more because that's part of, impressing your audience, but also like that act of listening very intently in class to say, well, what is your position on this? And how might I weave that position in with also my argument in my essay to drive home the point that I'm trying to make?
Okay, so you're listening to the lectures, taking notes furiously, and seeing how you can weave those ideas together and to demonstrate that you have been listening in class. Okay, great. But I mean, equally so, you could be reading your lectures, research papers, and doing that kind of work too, right? Which not a lot of students do. So, for grad students, I think, they may still be in the mode of thinking, oh, yeah, my lecturer is going to read it. And, I just have to demonstrate a few things that we talked about in class or what's in the subject readings. But that's common. But what I see a lot in my own students is them doing a lot of citations. So even if you think that they have read your work, they haven't. They've really just said, okay, so Choi 2024 states, and then maybe there's a quote from something, and that quote doesn't look like it's really well integrated into the idea of the paragraph. There's a lot of quoting, citing from all directions, which makes me think that the student is hiding behind the literature. But I guess in that regard, that would be the case for a lot of students because they don't feel that they are an expert in that thing to be able to speak in an authoritative way. Okay, but you should still be able to paraphrase things and build them into your own, knowledge framework. What do I think about this right now? But that's not something that we see often, but it's also not something we talk about. So I can see why grad students don't have a sense of that my lecture is a real audience. Yeah. And the purpose is just to get a mark.
And so how have you been able to create tasks around that give your students and empower them with, you have an audience that goes far beyond me?
And that has to do with, making sure that people's funds of knowledge is what we call it, that you've had a lived experience doing things and you know stuff, right? You know stuff from, your own communities, your past history, the things that you enjoy and do. So all of those things are things you know, and if they can be incorporated into the new things you have to learn, then that connecting piece is really important. And so let's go back to the Kimchi is for Everyone book. Because while making that book, I learned so much about what I know and what I can put together in my own way, in my own voice. And when I started to make that, I put it out there in the world, and I got a lot of people who asked me for interviews and a lot of grad students who want to know more about that. And what I started to realize was that I can talk about it from a more academic view about this thing that I created. So you need a product, and then you need some opportunity to talk about that product in an intellectual manner. Okay, so what I'm trying to do with my own students, that's my own learning. So what I'm trying to do with my own students is to say, okay, guys, you know stuff. I'm sure you know stuff. So you make a book. It doesn't have to be a big book. Just even an 8-page or 10-page book is fine. You make a book on something you know. You got to go and research it. You have to think about the language super carefully. Who is your audience and who is your purpose? You got to think about all of those things and give me let's look at the product. You take that product and you analyze it yourself. You tell me what decisions did you make in terms of your language, for whom, for what purpose, and you have to link up the things that I taught you in this subject. Use all those key concepts to explain what you did, and you got to do that in 2,500 words. 2,500 words is not small. It's a lot of words that you need to use to link up concepts and do a really fine-grained analysis of what you did. Now, students do that really well, and they do not hide behind any kind of citation. Woo! Because they're talking about something they know, and they're using the key concepts to demonstrate their understanding. So this is not a matter of Choi said this and that, and there is a space for some literature review, but the bulk of the work is on their analytical skills. Okay, so the way to bring this together is that we're thinking about, first and foremost, is the students' funds of knowledge and their funds of identity. So what do you know, and how do you want to express what you know? That's what it is. And then show me that we're extending your knowledge, what you already know, to things that you are learning that's new. So what it is doing is there's a connection to be made by these things. And that's what I believe our students don't get enough practice in. They're getting a lot of new content, but they can't link it to anything that they know because they don't have the opportunity. Okay, but I'm not asking them to do, I don't have to redesign the whole syllabus. I'm adding something within the word count that they have to work within and asking them to take some of those words to then analyze whatever they're doing. So it brings the existing knowledge and new knowledge together, and it is genuine and meaningful because students are talking about something only they know, not something that they can just put into AI and generate. So that's how I have been thinking about using my own experience of audience and purpose has helped me to think about that. And that's how I can see that my students are also thinking about audience and purpose very carefully, because they are also shuttling between language choices that they have to make in their books for whoever their audience is, and the choices that they have to make for the essay, which is for me.
Woo! That's so rich. That's incredible. Yes, I think you're making me think about how the importance of the product and the opportunity and how that gives students a renewed purpose.
That's right.